Okay, everybody, today is Wednesday, October 15th, 2025, and there's so much to talk about today. Firstly, that we can see the timing. It's really incredible what's happening in the Israel-Palestine, because when we look at what's happening with 3i Atlas, what's happening with 3i Atlas is it's actually teaching us the harmony of the order, and it's showing these remarkable dates. If we look at the arrival of 3i Atlas, let me just share screen to Mars. And so this is the model of all the alleged comets in the solar system. So if we go back to the 1st of October, when Yom Kippur began, the most holy day for the Israelites and the Jewish people is the Day of Atonement, which marks the day that Moses received the second set of commandments. We see the alignment between 3i Atlas, Mars, Mercury, the messenger, K1 Atlas, and the sun. The fact that these other comets are at play in the harmony is, again, really shows evidence of the spiritual force, the spirit having dominion over material matter, and the harmony of the planetary and cometary bodies. If these are proven all to be comets, it really shows the presence of organized, intelligent, harmonic spirit having dominion over them. And the thing that interests me the most about this is that consciousness, according to scientific studies by William Tiller, who William Tiller was in What the Bleep Do We Know, but he's also in my film, Quantum Communication. And I met Tiller at his home. He's such a strict and brilliant physicist, Stanford University. And Tiller demonstrates the here. In fact, let me try and put a picture of him, because it's really amazing to understand that when a scientist works in the field of consciousness, I mean, first of all, they get um, William Tiller. I don't even know if Tiller is still alive. Um, uh, Consciousness. I mean, he's on Gaia TV, the Tiller Foundation. Here we go. I just like to put a face to when I'm talking about somebody so people understand. So you can go to the Tiller Foundation and Dr. William Tiller, here he is. Oh, he passed away in 2022. And I'm not surprised. I had the pleasure of learning from him in person. And it's so profound what he's done. And it's to simplify what Tiller's done is years and years and years of collecting experimental data and conducting experiments on the enormous power of consciousness. Because again, if these cometary bodies and even 3i Atlas still might be a massive spacecraft, it looks like a massive spacecraft. It doesn't look like a comet. It's going to our magic position, which I'll talk about in a minute. But here's the long and the short of Tiller is, if you put a barrier in front of an electromagnetic radio wave, part of the wave will send its energy into the barrier through the photoelectric effect, and part of it will pass through, and part of it will bounce off back in the direction of sending. So when we put barriers in front of radio waves, the shorter the wavelength, the higher the frequency, the more penetrating it is to the barrier. And higher frequency wavelengths exhibit more energy. So the experiments that they did using fruit fly larvae sensors called EEDs or IEDs, I'm trying to remember from his books and from my conversation with him, were able to sense at huge distances in hundreds and even thousands of miles and even halfway around the planet when a human intention in consciousness of a single person was coherent and focused. Coherent and focused is the key operating understanding. It would penetrate all barriers and affect the sensor. So they did experiments like with a glass of water, and they measure, and this is not with fruit fly larvae, and they would have the intention of raising or lowering the natural pH of that water. And over time, what they found is humans could not maintain that thought. So they store the thought in fruit fly larvae because fruit fly larvae was like a sensor that could memorize that intention and hold it steady. This really tells you a lot about what the difference between an advanced meditator is and a beginner meditator, because a big beginner meditator, their mind's like all over the place. And you know what it's like. I know so many people, they come to me and they say they want to learn how to meditate. And I've been meditating for, getting close now to, well, 45 years, more than 45 years every day. But I started when I was 13, and I rarely ever miss a day. And what happens is when consciousness becomes coherent, it does affect material matter form. The pH of the water did go up when they did these experiments over and over and over again. And experiments at short distances with copper plates on the walls with really powerful meditators could transfer electromagnetic energy, what appeared to be electromagnetic energy, and activate an electric charge that's measurable with voltmeters in copper plates around the person. And when I say meditator, a person could be a Reiki master, they could be a lot of different things because there's a lot of different forms of meditation. So basically, what Tiller demonstrates is that coherent mind is has power and is more penetrating than the highest frequency waves we've measured. So the highest frequency waves we've measured, you go up to the high end of the electromagnetic spectrum. Humans see from red to violet, and above violet is ultraviolet, near, far, and extreme. And again, and then you come to X-rays. And X-rays, of course, we know penetrate skin and give us pictures of bones. And above X-rays are gamma. And gamma rays contain the most power in the known physical universe. So remember, the higher the frequency of the wave, the more power, because there's more energy over material matter form in the higher and higher frequency wavelengths, and gamma waves are the most powerful. Except, even in Tiller's studies, consciousness was more penetrating than gamma waves. More. So what does that mean? It's more powerful. But that would mean a more powerful, coherent, conscious, you could call it a spiritual being, you could call it a plasma living being, or you could call it a human being, which really contains plasma, is responsible for the coherent behavior of 3i Atlas in its perfect timing that I've demonstrated to the planets, to all of these religious states. And that is even more stunning than if it's a piece of technology, actually. That would be more stunning. Because if it's a piece of like AI technology and it's robotic, because nothing, if you understand how long the transitional period is of 3i Atlas, how long it took to get here, from its possible origin, which is really remarkable. I've been talking to Richard Hoagland this week, and he's really helped me see this. If we backtrack Three Eye Atlas and we go all the way back, I mean, this is literally like Star Wars and the Force. You see, we're looking at it here. This is Yom Kippur. And on this date, when we were supposed to get the best pictures from the Mars HiRISE camera, we did get the pictures from the European Space Agency orbiter that's orbiting around Mars. Yom Kippur started on the 1st, went to the 2nd. The 3rd of October was when Loeb says it was the closest to Mars. And then this is about the 5th is when we started seeing images. And I want to show you what happens on the 13th. What happened on the 13th yesterday? It came on, it's starting to get close to our position of hyperdimensional planet 591, which it will reach on for a window of days, actually, between the 20th and the 25th. Here, this is where hyperdimensional planet orbit of 591 is. And that's its bullseye. And then it will reach perihelion on the 29th and 30th. Some people are now saying it's the 30th instead of the 29th. You notice there's the sun here. Here's Earth. We can't see it right now. It's already blinded by the light of the sun. So if we go here to the 15th today, you can see Earth, the sun, and Atlas. It's just to the left of the sun, but unless you have a phenomenal solar telescope, nobody can see it. Nobody's going to see it when it pierces the veil. But the point is, if I backtrack it way, way back, way, way back, see, there's Pluto, and I take it to as far back as we know it existed, the odds of it surviving, and because it's interstellar, it means it didn't come from the Oort cloud, which is the cloud of comets and meteoric debris that surrounds like a halo the entire solar system in the outer solar system. And the fact that nothing destroyed it and it made it through all of that, and then you have to think of how many other suns are there in between us and where they're saying this atlas is from, is the chances of it surviving if it was a comet and the number of suns it must have come close to is not possible. It's just not possible unless it's conscious. At the very least, conscious. And in fact, consciousness is more likely the answer to what's even powering it. Like, remember, in fact, I had this conversation with William Tiller, and he believes this because of real scientific data. This is a lifetime of work for a scientist. That because consciousness, when it's coherent, is more powerful than gamma, it basically can tell matter what to do, and the spacecraft can be powered by highly coherent beings. You can call them gods or goddesses. You can attribute them to the human form, or you can attribute them to, for example, I think holographically. So I have all this data around me, and so it may sound like I'm jumping around a bit, but I'm actually coming back to point. Is in the Holy of Holies temple at Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, a sphere of light known as Shekinah lived inside of the Holy of Holies temple, where the Ark of the Covenant and the 12 staffs of the 12 tribes were calibrated in the Holy of Holies in Solomon's temple. And the Holy of Holies in Solomon's temple was was 20 by 20 cubits, biblical cubits, which are long cubits, the equivalent of the Egyptian royal cubit. And at the time of Moses, the Holy of Holies was a tent, and it was 10 by 10 cubits, which is the same measurement as the Queen's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. And the King's Chamber is the same measurement as a rectangular tent called the Holy Place that extended beyond the Holy of Holies tent. This is important because we're talking about Three Eye Atlas being at Mars on Yom Kippur, the day when the high priest enters the Holy of Holies. Used to, because there is no more Holy of Holies in Jerusalem. It was never rebuilt to atone for the sins of the people and the impurities. I mean, when you say the word sins, it's actually, if you read the temple scroll itself, it's not so much the word sin as it is impurities. So it's a purification ritual. And we're seeing that Mars is in the harmony of the order on that date. And it knows exactly what it's doing. So the question is, Atlas a consciously driven nickel core? Is definitely nickel. I'm reading Loeb's new paper this morning in the core. Manufactured nickel. It's a type of nickel in the spectroscopy from the James Webb Telescope confirmed that does not occur naturally. So we're still not at consciously driven yet, but we probably are. Because in Tiller's formula, God bless him, I didn't know he died. May the force be with you, William Tiller, and thank you for everything you taught me in person. I really think in Tiller's model and what we have collected, even from the retrieval of crashed saucers, and this comes from my friend Boyd Bushman at Lockheed Martin, who passed away years ago, they don't see a motor. No, there's not a motor that they can see. It looks like the ETs themselves might have been the power source. And this gets back to William Tiller. I mean, and the force. I know that's hard to believe because our brains are so scattered. But one thing Tiller found is, and this is confirmed by Roger Nelson in the Global Consciousness Project, is when millions of minds come together and focus on the same thing, the random event generators, the eggs in the Global Consciousness Project, react. And they show the synchronicity of humans thinking together in large numbers. And there's a reaction. Those sensors go from random quantum reactions to coherent, from random to coherent. So it's all about coherency. The left and the right side of the brain coming into focus, into coherency, instead of fighting with itself. I mean, to master meditation, the benefits are tremendous peace and tremendously beautiful, perfect bliss. And perfect bliss is perfect love. It's the highest form of love. And I experience it every single day. For the last 8 years, I finally was able to perfect that state of consciousness, which eradicates the memory even of all forms of human suffering. And believe me, I've known all of them very, very well. The loss of my wife, mental illness is probably the worst, most horrible disease that a human being can get, far worse than cancer. I've had kidney stones. I mean, I've lost my mother early in life, and I've known. Anyway, I just want to say a lot of human beings have known suffering. When I was reading about Robert Redford's life and his personal life, I would say he knew enormous suffering. Losing his first child at 2 months and his second child, had health problems all the way along and died, fairly early in life. I mean, a lot of us know suffering, but to become coherent and reach the bliss state is the beginning of eradicating all suffering, and to make proof of contact with life after death, really, of loved ones, really helps us feel that the universe is organized. And Atlas is doing this because the number my wife gave me is the 591, which is just inside of the orbit of Mars. Mars is 68698. So 591 is right here. I mean, I've done the ratio math to know where it is. And so this week, we are on the 15th today. Let me go back though to this because on this day, the Mars high-rise camera was switched off, and it's still off right now. I've checked it every day, and I just checked Avi Loeb, and he still thinks they're going to release the images. It's so clear that what they see in the images, this is the best camera in the solar system. It operates in the gigapixel range, and my Nikon is 46 megapixels. So if I was even like a Hasselblad today could be 200 megapixels, and they're probably the best cameras on the ground, but the Mars high rise is in gigapixel range. So there's no question what it sees disturbs them. They turn it off, and the I can find here. Let me just pull up an image of the freeze frame. I have a freeze frame of that site. So I go to I want you to see this. It's really incredible because let's see. I have it here. And where do I have that? There it is. There's the Mars high-rise camera website. Uh, and go to my share screen. This is showing that you see these last images, October 1st, right? This is the last date that it's released an image is sometime on October 1st. It's been frozen. And has not turned itself back on. Now, what else do we know happened on October 1st? The government shut down, and it moved very swiftly to be perfectly timed, I think, in absolute fear at the administration level that they didn't want the public to see these images. We can already see incredible architecture and design in the European Space Agency images, which I presented last time, and I can show those again, and some better quality adjustments that a friend of mine did that are really remarkable when you look at them. And it does look like a mothership, even though it's a little bit fuzzy. There's no question it doesn't look like like a comet. So that's it. Government shutdown of the high-rise camera, the best camera in the solar system, far better than the Hubble camera, far better. It's just that it doesn't have a telescope attached to it. But considering the distance, the 3i Atlas is to Mars, which is 0.195 astronomical units. And oh God, if I could show you my image that I did there. So I mean, let's just look at this for a second because this is an actual image of Atlas from the European Space Agency orbiter. And this is a glint, an actual glint that is produced by Atlas as it's rotating. It's a megastructure, in my opinion, which is highly geometric. So this is just as this very slow rotation is happening in its multi-geometric surface, it glints, but this is a perfect geometry, a cube in the center with these incredibly beautiful bands. Of course, this looks like a Christian cross, even proportionally. this looks like a Christian cross. And I can rotate this and rotate this, and I can see because you can look at it from multiple angles and you can start to get a feeling of what it is. So that's I wouldn't say that's exactly what it looks like, and that's just because the grayscale on that camera is exposed for the highlights, the brightest flash that it sees on Atlas. And so the rest of the camera is dialing down and into the gray and the black areas. If we brighten them up, we start to see something really, really interesting. I'll show you an image that, okay, so this is Erica Jelinas in Connecticut. She actually takes the image of Atlas and then she's going to color it a bit and put it into chat and ask chat to interpret what it sees. Now, this upper right image here shows a huge kind of rectangular structure. You can see shadow on the right, so this is three-dimensional. This is taken from the European Space Agency imagery. You have these wing-like structures on the sides. I mean, what Erica did is just brighten it up. And you can see this bottom image here. She got an iPhone 17 Pro Max, and she's just using the photo editor in there. And then she found a line of objects in the background that are in a straight line. And of course, this is AI interpreting it. Although the size of this is so massive, this kind of looks like a scout ship, but this is just AI interpreting what it's seeing. You see this protrusion on the front on the right. This doesn't look anything like a comet. In fact, when you look at this, I mean, I'd like to see 100 different artists look at this image on the right and this image on the bottom and interpret it. I want to see what the creative mind sees in this low res, although structured, and see what we get. Because an artist can look in there and creatively and use their kind of sci-fi imagination and kind of turn it into something, and we can see what AI can do. I mean, I did some things with AI with it, and I can show you kind of what I got. Although it's not like, look at this. This is the image itself. I mean, this is a camera. This is our European Space Agency providing these images, and then it just brightened, adjusted. I mean, Erica did an incredible job on this. She's the one who had the encounter with the angel in a car accident when she was trying to get her prom dress in Connecticut. And this angel writes her number down before she leaves on a piece of paper, and it gives her the number. Let me show you the number. I just want you to see it. I have to go to my folder on Erica. Erica kept this piece of paper. I made her find it. She had to go into a box. I mean, I'm on the phone with her. I've never physically met her, but I talked to her on Zoom. And one night she found the piece of paper and notice there's no area code. And she said her name was Mrs. White, and she wrote Mr. Blanchard. Blanchard means shining white, like an angel. And this angelic person retrieved her shoe, her silver slipper, it's like a Cinderella story, from the car accident and gave it to her. And the ambulance door is closed. Erica has fractured ribs, and she's rushed to the hospital. And her friend also was rushed to the hospital. Erica gets to the hospital, And somehow this woman came through the ambulance doors, which public persons don't do. She was in the waiting area waiting to be seen by a doctor where no public persons can go through that door. Erica said she did not interact with the doctors, which is very strange if she was an ordinary human being. And she wrote this number down, uh, and Erica highlighted it with the blue pen. And she calls her using the 203 area code, and there was no such number in 1997 or 98. So notice 591, of course, why I was so interested in this. So that's where 3i Atlas is going to hit in starting. I mean, I think that window opens on the 19th of October. Remember, last year in the inner circle, on the 19th of October, I heard the voice of Jesus tell me to do the calculations, which I did. And the first calculation was October 9th, 19th plus 432 days. Everybody knows what 432 is. I landed on December 25th of this year, which will be this Christmas. And this Christmas, 3i Atlas will be a great pyramid angle from Earth. Earth and 3i Atlas are a great pyramid angle. And it's right at the point. In fact, let me bring that up because it's really important to fulfill that thought. Because I heard the voice last October 19th. And this October 19th, it's very prophetic what the voice did. I'm going to my Medium page, which is medium.com/the @ David Sereda, no periods. That's my Medium page. So so here we go. Let me just go to my Medium page, and I want to show you Methuselah proof of intelligence. So here we go. It's right here. It's in this article. So I mean, these are all my religious states, which we've gone over of Atlas crossing. Each planetary orbit comes to the most holy, perfect days in most of the world religions. I know there's some smaller religions that the ancient Greeks had and the early Celtic people, which need to be studied deeply. But when we come to Christmas, that was Yom Kippur. This is the bullseye of Atlas, which I've marked the 23rd of October. But you can see with this white trajectory line of Atlas here, it's going to enter it 19th, 20th, 23rd, and after the 23rd, 24th, 25th will be right about here. We'll actually track it. I'm going to track it exactly on those dates too, because then it'll come back to the orbit of Mars again. Right? So then here is this is what I wanted to show you. So this is Christmas. And notice this peak. So this flat blue line here is Atlas holding very, very close to Earth and its closest to Earth. Loeb puts its closest position to Earth here on the 20th, which is right about here. And then the day after Christmas is up here. It can no longer hold that closest position. I know exactly why this is. It doesn't actually stop. It's just that as Atlas moves away, Earth moves closer because of the orbits. And on the 26th of December, it has totally released itself from that closeness. So it's perfectly timed to Christmas. It's incredible. And on Christmas Day, here it is. It is Great Pyramid Angle, 51.853972 degrees from Earth. And a certain time that day, of course, half the planet, we're we're there's a point in time on the international date line where we have two dates on the planet on the same day. So there's an exact precise time. This is so incredibly planned. So let's come back to and why we're doing these frequencies in our bodies to be tuned to this opportunity. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, to tune ourselves musically to the frequencies of the planets, of the positions, because Atlas is showing us, 3i Atlas is showing us the harmony of the order. And the harmony of the order is spiritual religious states. So I'm going to show you here Bullseye the 19th. So this was last year on October 19th, which is in the beginning of the day in the northern hemisphere in Canada. I hear the voice of Jesus. I know his voice. So many people tell me I'm hearing things, but why am I hearing things when the math is perfect? It's freaking perfect. So it the three dates it gave me was the 14th, 15th of August. It gave, which we now know was the Ascension Day of the Mother Mary, and was also the wow signal left. The wow signal was detected August 15th, 1977. And Loeb is saying that 3i Atlas came from the direction of the wow signal to a degree of accuracy that is quite remarkable. I mean, there's no such thing as 100% in science. So I would say his accuracy is somewhere around 98%, according to the data I've seen. So it comes from, we get the wow signal at Earth on the 15th of August, 1977. And the 14th, 15th of August is one of the three calculation dates that I got last October 19th. So that means October 19th is actually one of the dates because it's my starting point. So I'm coming back to it a year ahead, and this is the 19th of October, and I'm there. I'm within the orbit of 591, and I will be for about this many days, and then it will slowly, I will come to um perihelion on the 29th. Notice here's Earth, here's the sun, and its closest position to the sun is somewhere between the 19th and the 30th, which again, we've already demonstrated was the Prophet Muhammad's birthday, both the 29th and the 30th in two very recent years, very recent, like 2020 and 2022, I think it is. I've got to check, but I don't need to go over those points again because I've already done that. So this is what we have coming up because we're at the 15th. So it's really important to be doing these frequencies because we're attuning to its bullseye. And the fact that its bullseye is here is my planet 591, and it traveled for the distances that are incredibly, incredibly enormous. And that also its bullseye is 591, and its closest position to Mars was 0195, which is 591 in reverse in astronomical units. I actually made a graphic of that. I don't want to go back to here just for a minute because my bullseye, I actually made a graphic of this. I wonder if I kept it yet. If I kept it in my anyway, I'll see if I can find that graphic. So we are going to be doing new frequencies now. I'm going to send everybody in the inner circle the new frequencies, which are a much more accurate harmonic based on new data between Earth and all of all of the planets in the 591 model. So I'm going to go to dates and so when I look at this, I now have in my possession, it's amazing how Atlas did this, but I actually have the frequencies. See, we've been working with ratios, which is harmony, right? So ratio is a calculation that sets up a harmony in music. And so when you look at how the ancient at this point, ancient classical music, it's amazing to think of classical music as ancient in the birth of it and Holst, the planets, and Beethoven's spiritual visions of, the seventh and eighth and ninth symphonies that were really, when you really think of what Beethoven was doing in his spiritual visions, he was taking us to what he heard of the angelic voices going all the way up to the ninth. And the ninth would be the seraphim up here. I mean, he's really, really the first to do this with harmonies and music. But now, because I know those harmonies mathematically, because of new data that 3i Atlas has given me, um, and that's because it gave me, in its orbital axial period, it gave me 969.6, which is so close to my 956 virtues, the fifth level of heaven, which would be the equivalent of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, by the way, which is his most famous symphony, is so incredible because when I remember when I compared my Methuselah model to this model, and I put them together and then I took them back apart, the difference between the numbers on all the orbits of all the planets and the angelic planets were Fibonacci's numbers, which is unbelievable that that happened. Again, that there's an article on that on my Medium page. But with that data, that interlaced data, I've now created these new frequencies. And I actually have the individual frequencies now for all of the upper nine angelic planets. I mean, this is secret. This is what Beethoven heard, and it's now confirmed their orbital positions, and that of course I have the frequencies of all the visible planets. I now have the actual frequencies of angels, archangels, principalities, powers, virtues, dominions. Dominions is 591. And then we have thrones, which is responsible for the miracle of the sun at Fatima, cherubim, and seraphim. So we have those. And probably going to release those at Christmas. But right now, what I'm going to send the inner circle members is this week is we have the new harmonies that connect Earth to all of these targets. In this is really, really powerful because when for example when you go, like, you could literally go. I did this when I was a teenager because I had a teacher who was teaching me the power of going on the journey of meditating to the classical music masters, because if you listen to their music on a really good stereo system, those symphonies of Beethoven are taking you all the way to the ninth. And it's so clear what he's speaking about because Beethoven literally um, hears the music of the nine levels of the angels, and he's trying to take you there. And I know because when I went through seven of the levels of heaven, the music I heard and the voices of the angels I heard is far. This happened to me in 1986 in my near death experience that I had December 22nd and 23rd of 1986 when I was a very young man. Um, The music you actually hear of the angels, I'll kind of describe it here, is so far beyond Beethoven's symphonies. But using stringed instruments, he does a very good job of replicating to the best of his ability what he heard. But when you actually hear the music of the angels, it's unconditional what it does to you. So it's not like a human being is in this differential consciousness, very judgmental. No, I don't like classical music. I like rap. No, I don't like rap. I like techno, and you got all these the way humans are react to music is you like it or you don't like it. But that's not what happens when you hear the music of the angels. It you're so filled with love and bliss and qualities that we don't have names for that are so spectacular. It's not like, okay, turn the music off. I don't want to hear it anymore. It doesn't even work like that. The human brain cannot possibly imagine what happens to you when you enter the harmony of the order, because the harmony of the order is the harmony, which is the ratios of the planets to each other, which we now know are all golden ratio with a tiny degree of tolerance, and that the ratios of our planets to the angelic, to the upper planets, and in many other spiritual cultures, they don't call them angels. They call them the planets of, like, for example, in the Vedas, in the Hindu literature, they call them lokas, and there are seven lower lokas and seven higher lokas. They didn't have a model of nine, and loka planets are planets where enlightened beings live, and they live in supreme states of bliss. And they actually have names for these higher lokas, like Hiranya Loka and Krishna Loka. So I'm not saying the word angel is even, which means messenger in the Greek. So it's a Greek word, and it means messenger. And so I'm not saying that more and more ancient civilizations were not aware of this, because we know they were. We know that the ancient Egyptians had two Enneads, a lower Ennead of not Ennead meaning nine, and an upper nine. So here we have our lower nine and we have our upper nine. So there there is evidence. It's not super clear that this was known in ancient times, but to understand that music is based on frequency and harmonies in music are based on ratio, proportion, that Beethoven's spiritual visions and actually hearing the music of the great spheres, which is really well documented in Jamie James' book, Music of the Spheres. It is an incredible journey. Is to understand that based on our ability with human instruments to interpret and take a person who listens to a higher state of consciousness was what was the whole purpose of the great classical music composers. And Holst's interpretation of the planets, I mean, is his interpretation of the journey through the known planets. Which brings me to, and let me pull up, because I have a few minutes left, Jamie James' book, Music of the Spheres. Jamie James. Here it is, Music of the Spheres. I'll put it on my Amazon. I just want people to see the book I'm actually referring to here. This, to me, this book is a very important piece of literature, because it really opens your mind to the natural order of the universe, the music of the spheres, music, science, and the natural order. Okay, so there's a scene in this book. There's a scene in this book. So let me go to my coils. So there's a scene in this book where the goddess Harmony comes to this wedding feast, and she's holding on her chest. They're just like my coils, which Basically, my coils are vortexes, wheels. They transmit light that you can't see, but it's really there. This light, electromagnetism, is spinning in my coils at 3/4 the speed of light. So if you could see it, it really looks like these images that I'm demonstrating here. And if you go to my coils, this is what the goddess Harmony is wearing on her chest. And she's playing a music. I had to use AI here to kind of demonstrate this. Is a if we understand that our stereo sound speakers here start at about 40 hertz and then they go to 20,000 hertz. So we hear from 20 to 20,000. The brain hears all the way from 0.5 to about 200 hertz, the brain. I'm talking about human brain waves. So basically, my coils paired with speakers are actually light vortices that can send out frequencies which I've tested that are super, super low where the brain operates. So these are my coils. They're handmade. There's small ones that are more affordable. And there's, you can see my new 49 pointed coils, which is a base 7 number, are super sophisticated. So when you use my coil systems, you're getting a harmonic, um, you're getting a geometric imprint in your body. So it's actually teaching your nervous system holographic geometry. It's actually bringing coherency. Remember, we talked about coherency today in the very, very beginning. So if you go to my front page, davidsereda.co, you'll see here the human brain. So delta, deep sleep, is 1 to 4 hertz. This is the healing part of the brain. Theta, deep relaxation, and the frequency of Earth is 4 to 8 hertz. Now, all the deepest healing of the body, of literally studies done, medical studies have proven that the healing of the body occurs in these deep states. So stereo speaker sound for doing sound healing misses the entire bottom. In fact, it even misses alpha, which is deep learning and cognition, and waking coherency, 8 to 12 hertz. Beta, high cognition and activity, is 12 to 30 hertz. So this is where if you're wearing headphones, you only begin at beta. You cannot get these lower frequencies without my coils. You can't. And all you have to do is pair them in a quadraphonic. You send 2 wires to your speakers and 2 wires to 2 coils, and you have a full sound healing system. On top of that, you can put these under beds and you can run frequencies silently, magnetically into the body. And these vortices of light, it's actual light, but it's not visible wavelength light that you receive, and you start to experience, and people who use my systems experience this incredible coherency. So this is what I've been doing every night before bed. I actually use one of my cube systems next to the bed, and I've been running the frequencies, which is attuning my consciousness to the harmony of the order positions that 3i Atlas is demonstrating. So right now, this week, we are really focused on the 591 bullseye, which it's going to hit on between the 19th of October all the way to the about the 25th. And then we come to solar perihelion on the 29th and 30th, which we'll talk about more next week. So you'll all be getting a link today, the members of the inner circle, to those new frequencies. And I really recommend, because a lot of you have my systems, to really run these frequencies. You know, maybe 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at night is plenty. You can run it longer than that if you want. It's no problem. So with that, everybody, have a great day. There's a lot more I wanted to present today, which I'll just have to get into next week. Thank you for being here.